Hey guys, this is Substitute Topher filling in for the Topher today, and thanks to Gene Buttman Ford in Ypsilanti, Michigan, we are driving a 2007 BMW 335i convertible. This is powered by a 3-liter twin turbocharged inline 6, making about 300 horsepower, 300 foot-pounds of torque, and in this particular example we have the 6-speed ZF automatic transmission. Now, this car is also a hardtop convertible, but due to the nature of these E90 generation BMWs, the top is not fully functioning as it should be. So a couple repairs still need to be done to this car before it's offered for sale, but I figured I'd take you guys on a little bit of a test drive anyways, just with the top up today. So let's go ahead and take a little walk around it. This is extra special to me because I used to own a car very similar to this. Well, when I say very similar, it was an E90, so it was the sedan. This convertible is known as the E93. Mine was also a 328xi, so it was sort of the polar opposite 3 Series. Mine was a 328xi sedan. This is a 335i rear-wheel drive convertible, so a little bit different, but still kind of special to me because I owned one that was the same generation. All the interior bits are very similar, so it's reminding me of my college days. We do have a power release trunk, but yeah, it doesn't let you do it when you're on the outside of the car without the key, so you have to hit this little trunk button here, which pops it open. And you can see where that hardtop folds down into there. A little bit of cargo space here under this cover. I don't know how exactly that lifts up, but when you have the top up, you can lift this up and maximize your cargo space back here for things. This is a soft close as well, so when we put our dealer plate back in here, check that out, it'll soft close nicely there for us. Dual exhaust on this 335i, which is valved. It'll open up and get slightly louder when you are on the gas above a certain RPM, and you'll hear that once we're out on our test drive. It's interesting that BMW went to the hardtop convertible with the E9X Generation 3 Series, kept it through the F Series with the 4 Series, and then now they're back to the soft top in the newer 4 Series. What do you guys think? I think I like the look of this hardtop better than the soft top cars. It sets it aside slightly more in the market. Hardtop convertibles are cool, but considering the fact that this one is not functioning as it should be right now, I'm not sure that's a really good sell for the hardtop convertible. So I guess there are multiple factors to consider when forming your opinion on that. Getting into the back seat, they make it pretty easy here. Just fold that forwards and climb on back. Not a ton of room back here. I am 5'11". Oh, yep, that'll fold up. I'm 5'11", and I'm pretty crammed back here, but considering that this is a 4-seater, I've at least got a little bit of room to my side here. The previous owner of this car has wrapped all of the trim, which I assume was wood before. They've wrapped it all in carbon fiber, which is an interesting choice, but there it is. A couple of little storage compartments back here. Not entirely sure what you're supposed to do with that. And then this comes down as well for a bit of a pass-through or something. Overall, it's pretty cramped back here. I'm ready to exit the back seat now. Okay, climb out. All right, there we go. At least there is a lever there to make things easier. See that pop back up there for our seat belt. Overall, I've always loved the way that these interiors look in these E90 generation BMWs. I think they got it really right for the times. When this generation of the 3 Series debuted in 2006, it definitely was ahead of its time. We've got the OG iDrive right here with this little knob. 4-corner system, kind of like an old Ford Sync system. Of course, this came first. Climb it over to your left. You can see it takes quite a while to go into there. Our menu button here takes us back, and you know, the matching corners here, that takes us down to entertainment. Up takes you to communication. You can actually Bluetooth your phone to this 2007 BMW. We also have navigation in this car. I'm not even going to try to use this because it's probably insanely complicated. remember I used to just roll around with the map on the screen in mine because I thought it made me look like a big baller driving around in a BMW with factory navigation. But anyways, it's super interesting to get in this. Wow, this is a 15-year-old car now. To get in this car and actually see these old infotainment systems and think about how this was revolutionary in 2006, 2007, when these infotainment systems were starting to come to life. We were starting to get actual screens, and this BMW's got this cool little knob down here, and they still use a similar system today in their new cars. Of course, now you have a touch screen up here, but you still have a knob down here that you can use if you're driving and you want to just, well, use the knob. Otherwise, we have these pop-out cup holders, which actually work in this car. It's pretty cool to see. Check that out. The Germans are always keen to give very unique cup holder designs. My Porsche Cayman has similar ones in the dash as well. The ones on my E90 were broken, so I was happy to get in this car today and see that they actually work. Heated seats in this 335i. A little compartment down there. A little bit of wear right here. That was an issue with these cars. Some of these plastics, the paint or the coating or whatever was on this really wore off in a non-nice fashion. Otherwise though, this is actually a pretty clean example. The interior is not too bad. The actual seats themselves are in pretty nice shape, so it's good to be back. All right guys, what do you say we take this thing out on the road and see what it's like to drive? Super heavy steering in these E90 generation BMWs. If you've ever driven one, you'll know what I'm on about. I remember when I bought mine, I thought something was wrong with it because the steering feel is just so heavy in these cars, which driving around town is not the best thing in the world. When you're actually out on the road though, it's quite nice. It feels nice around corners, and honestly, I may go as far to say it's a better steering feel than modern BMWs because they're so artificial and electronic, and this gives you that nice pure steering feel, but you do have to give up ease around town because it's like, well, I was going to say it was like turning a bus, but I'd assume a bus would be easier to turn. It's like turning an old Lotus with no power steering or an Alfa Romeo 4C. You do have power steering, but it's a little bit hard in this thing. So I mentioned under the hood of this 335i, we have that 3-liter twin turbo inline six, better known as the N54. Very, very notable engine in BMW history for a number of reasons. You can make a ton of power with these engines. They're very, very reliable bottom end wise. A lot of guys push a lot of power with just stock bottom ends, but if you're just using this car as a daily driver, they are notorious for having some issues, such as high pressure fuel pump, wastegate rattle, coil packs, all of the usual BMW stuff, I suppose. But the N54 in particular, I had a couple friends in college that had N54 powered cars and they never ran right. This one is actually running quite nicely today. At least it is currently. We'll see how it's running by the end of the test drive. But yeah, it's a good sounding inline six. This ZF 6-speed is also performing quite nicely today. These cars were later on given an 8-speed, but being that this is only the second model year, it doesn't shift the fastest, but it gets the job done. We've also got a sport mode for the transmission. Slap it over into its manual function and it'll shift slightly more aggressively. That was usually automakers' form of sport mode back in the mid-2000s. They would just have you slap the stick over and it would shift slightly more aggressively. We can also take manual control from this function here. And I'm happy to report it's actually in the right order. Down is up, up is down. If you know, you know. That is the correct way to do things. And BMW had that right back in the mid-2000s. And actually, this is actually really surprising. It reacts pretty quickly. I mean, look at this. And it rev matches too. So pretty impressive stuff here for a 15-year-old car. We are slightly clogged up here. He is driving on the curb, as I suppose he probably has to. And this will hold gears for you too. It's not going to shift for me. The actual input doesn't happen instantly, but the shift itself happens very quickly. There's no real hesitation there. Pretty cool stuff. This particular car, it's a little bit floaty. As you can see, I'm having to do quite a bit of steering, but it's we got 114,000 miles on this particular car, so it feels about like a 115,000 mile E93 BMW. The actual steering feel through this corner, though, is fabulous. It's very direct. Yeah, BMW could learn from themselves with this car. These cars definitely get a bad rap, but when you get one that's actually sorted, like this one seems to be right now, it's quite nice to drive. However, going over some of these rough sections up here, once we get to this straightaway, you'll be able to hear the flex and rattles in this interior. It just adds character. Yeah, you hear that? Yeah. I am going to cut this car a little bit of slack because it is, of course, a convertible, so it doesn't have a fixed roof. Things are going to move around a little bit more, but some of the materials that BMW used in these older interiors are not the best. As I mentioned earlier there on the door panel, some things rattle and squeak and, oh, Lord. Yeah, not really the best thing here. In fact, these wood panels used to crack quite a bit, so that could be why they wrapped this in carbon fiber, or just because they thought it looked cool. But you can see the seams in it where they ran out of material and added new material. Oh man, you gotta love BMWs from this era. You have to, and that's just it. You have to love these BMWs if you want to actually own one. I owned one. I didn't really love the experience that much, but my particular car, the previous owner was a bit of an idiot or something, and they had it maintained at a shop that had no idea what they were doing, and lots of things weren't as they should have been. These cars will only last you if they've been meticulously maintained their entire life. So if you can find one with a really good and proper service history, I mean, it should be a good car for you, especially if you go for the 328 as opposed to the 335 that I'm driving right now. Modern day equivalent of this car would actually be an M440i convertible. Of course, the 3 Series is no longer a two-door. This was the last generation that the 3 Series lived as a two-door. Then, of course, for the F body cars, they switched it to the 4 Series just to confuse people even more. Give this person a little bit of space. Downshift into second gear here. Didn't pay attention to what kind of tires were on this thing before I got into it. Probably just some generic all season. Yeah, I mean, this thing pulls hard. It still feels like it's got every bit of that 300 horsepower and 300 foot-pounds of torque. This car is a testament. If you keep up with your maintenance on these cars, they will continue to run properly. This is the best running N54 powered BMW I've ever been in or driven. It's really, truly impressive. I can't believe how well this particular car has held up. Apart from the roof, of course, and some interior rattles, but otherwise, it's fine. We've got a warning light for a brake light. I think there was a bulb out or something in the back. But other than that, other than those few things that are just to be expected with German cars, especially BMWs of this era, it's fine. I will say I don't like the turn signals they were using back in the mid-2000s. They don't click into place. I don't know what the point was of getting away from turn signals that actually click down. It didn't really make too much sense to me. This is just sort of a vague feel that never really feels right, but I guess you can get used to it. This steering wheel as well, it's not only is it very attractive, it feels very nice in the hands. Look how direct the steering is. I mean, really. Yeah. You can hear all the interior creaking as the car shifts. Also, this car, the temperature readout for the climate control and the outside temperature is in Celsius. Very strange. I have no idea how to turn it back. I was looking for it. Thought maybe it would be over here in this menu, because that is, of course, how you control things over here. You can see instant miles per gallon. This car is actually rated for 29 mpg on the highway. Quite an impressive figure. BMW's inline sixes, especially their turbo inline sixes, have always been super efficient. Hey, you can see we're actually getting 29 mpg right now. Well, we were a second ago. It is really a shame the reputation these cars have for being so unreliable. Because if you get one that's sorted, it is actually a very, very solid driver. I think it sounds cool too. These things sound insane if you put an exhaust on them. Pops and burbles tune, which I don't recommend the pops and burbles tune part because it just makes you a menace to society. In fact, maybe I do recommend it because then you're a menace to society. It's quite fun to go around pop, 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 pop with your 335i. That's what most of these are like now that a bunch of teenagers own them. Well, what else? This particular car isn't fitted with the sport pack, but you could have the 335i with sport seats with crumb collectors and such, and nicer wheels, larger wheels. And then later on, you could have what was called a 335iS, which actually retained the N54. The IS name they pulled back from the days of the E30 and E36 cars. That's quite a sought-after vehicle now. Just a little bit sportier, sat between the 335i and the M3. Of course, the M3 of this era had an V8. Tedward actually owns one of those cars, and well, if you keep up with Tedward's channel, you can see all of the maintenance that he's done with that car, but he still daily drives that thing. And you really do have to care. You really do have to be an enthusiast to keep up with these cars, but if you do keep up with them, they deliver. They're really cool. I mean, this is a 15-year-old car, and I'm having a lot of fun. You can see the somewhat modern touches, and the way that this car drives actually still feels pretty modern for being a 15-year-old vehicle. Some people actually take out this 15-year-old iDrive system and they put an Apple TV system in there. I have seen it done on TikTok. Keep their Apple TV remote in here and they can just have Netflix in their E90 BMW. So there are mods for everybody when it comes to this generation of 3 Series. Anything you can think of, it's out there. There's all kinds of performance parts, visual mods, all sorts of stuff for this chassis. That's another thing that just makes it really cool. So tunable, so customizable. Overall, I've got to be honest, I enjoyed driving this way more than I thought I was going to today. After having such a poor experience with my own E90, this E93 is actually quite sorted and quite nice. Quite heavy steering. Interesting way that this works. They gave you a push button start, but you still had to put the fob into this little slot and you push in and it clicks out and you're able to pull the key out. Quite a modern looking fob still too on this 15-year-old car. Same thing for when you go to start it, you push it in and then you hit the start button with your foot on the brake. So interesting ways to see that ways they were innovating things in 2007. What kind of tires are we running? Looks like just some Bridgestone all-season tires. Oh, why don't we take a look under the hood while we're over here? Take a look at this N54. Trust me, I know right where the hood release is because I spent a lot of time under the hood of mine. So there you go. There is the 3-liter N54 twin turbocharged inline 6. Quite a tidy engine bay in this. I don't know if this car has been detailed yet. Engine bay looks quite nice. Nice and well kept. The engine cover's on there still. That's how you know. Cool. Alright guys, well thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed watching me relive some bits of my college years driving this E93 335i BMW. It has been a treat. This is quite a sordid example, so it was a very good one to get behind the wheel and actually drive a car that has been maintained and has been taken care of. And I've got to say, I'm pleasantly surprised with how much I liked driving this 335i. Alright guys, well thanks so much for watching. We'll see you in the next video. Take care.